Kobe Bryant was pleading for more help.
Are you saying now emphatically, regardless of what they've done, you want out of Los Angeles?
Yeah, I'd like to be traded.
The Lakers were never going to give up the best player in the league. They went to work and added some great pieces. They just needed one more to complete the puzzle. That's when they pulled off one of the most infamous midseason trades and brought in Pau Gasol. They wasted no time in taking over the league. From that point forward, they went 38-12 and reached the finals. But they needed more time together to defeat a team like the Boston Celtics. The lasting image of that series came when they lost by 39 points in the final game. At that point, Kobe and the Lakers became obsessed with one thing: not just winning the championship, but dominating the NBA. The 2008 offseason was much different from the previous year. Instead of being discouraged by the lack of help, Kobe had as much help as he's ever had in his career. The Lakers had 10 players who could contribute in a valuable way. They were extremely deep. There was no longer a need for him to score 40 every night for his team to have a chance of winning. His job now was to figure out how to get the best of all his teammates. This is what he said about how his mindset changed according to a 2009 New York Times article. Quote, "When you first come into the league, you're trying to prove yourself as an individual, do things to assert yourself and establish yourself. But then once you've done that, there's another level to the game that's more complex than figuring out how to put up big numbers as an individual." End of quote. At the start of the season, he proved that he was more than willing to make whatever adjustment for his team. For the first 25 games, they only lost 3 times. They figured out rather quickly that they had 2 advantages: size and depth. The front line of Pau Gasol and Andrew Bynum gave teams so many problems on offense and defense. They had 4 players who were always part of the starting lineup: Derek Fisher, Kobe, Gasol, and Bynum. Phil Jackson plugged in 4 different players for the starting small forward position: Lamar Odom, Luke Walton, Trevor Ariza, and Vladimir Radmanovich. It didn't matter who we used. They were all able to provide so much versatility in their own way. Lamar was an exceptional rebounder who could bring the ball up the court. Trevor Ariza was a fantastic defender who could spread the floor with his outside shooting. And just like his Hall of Fame father, Luke Walton had a great basketball mind, and his court vision was his biggest strength. As great of a shooting big man Vladimir Radmanovich was, he was traded in the middle of the season for Shannon Brown. He was the final piece to what was famously known as the bench mob. There were multiple times when the Lakers would win games with their strong bench play. Jordan Farmar and Sasha Voyashik could get hot in an instant and provide big minutes. But there's no question that their 2 biggest weapons were Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol. Kobe quickly realized that one of Gasol's greatest strengths was his strong intellect, and they were both constantly scheming together on offense. What made Pau so great was his versatility. He could beat you in so many ways. He was the best passing big man in the league. He could drive and finish with either hand. He was deadly from anywhere inside 18 feet, and his footwork while operating on the post was immaculate. He was striving in this system, and he had a strong case for being one of the top 10 best players in the league. In Kobe's case, we mentioned that he needed to make some adjustments to adapt his game around his teammates. For this season, he was no longer the gunslinger who was always a threat to scoring 50. He was now the player who could slow down the game mentally and physically while still maintaining a high level of play. He picked his spots more effectively, and that allowed him to have one of his most efficient scoring seasons. He recorded the highest field goal percentage average while not playing alongside Shaq, and it was the 3rd highest of his career. The majority of his points were coming from post-ups, pick and rolls, and in transition. He was scoring less, but the team was winning more. And that's because he was more cerebral with the way he attacked. But once the 4th quarter began, that's when the Black Mamba would emerge. For example, Nuggets guard J.R. Smith made this interesting observation during the conference finals series. Quote, "I won't say he relaxes, but he'll coast in the first 3 quarters. And then in the 4th quarter, when they really need him, he pulls out that Superman cape." End of quote. For 20 games that season, he scored in double figures in the 4th quarter. However, there were times when Kobe didn't play conservatively. One of those times came against the New York Knicks, where he had one of his most memorable performances. He torched them all game long to send a message. The Lakers had just lost their talented young center, Andrew Bynum, to a knee injury that could jeopardize the Lakers' title hopes. His message to the team was that he was not going to allow this to derail them. So he went for a season-high 61 points on 61% shooting. It was an efficient scoring performance while converting on some of the most difficult shots. The Lakers were able to use that momentum to finish the season strong. They won an impressive 65 games. They earned home court advantage for the playoffs, but that doesn't mean their path was going to be easy. They got pushed to the limit various times. Each time their back was against the wall, they responded. You didn't know which player was going to be the hero. In the first round, it was Lamar Odom, who played perfectly. He averaged 17.8 points on 63% shooting. He shot 50% from the three. He also averaged 11 rebounds and 1.6 blocks per game. In the second round, Lakers were pushed to 7 games against the Houston Rockets. This was the most perplexing series of the postseason. The Rockets were extremely limited. They were without Tracy McGrady, and Yao Ming only played 3 games. Kobe even went as far as calling his team bipolar. But in the 7th game, Pau Gasol had his best game of that playoff run. He had 21 points on 53% shooting, 18 rebounds, and 3 blocks. Then there was Trevor Ariza, who was their biggest X factor. They couldn't ask for a better 3-and-D guy. He proved to be one of the team's best defenders. He made a staggering 47% of his 3-pointers, and he rose to the occasion when it mattered the most. In that conference finals, his defense played a big part in the Lakers winning that series. In games 1 and 3, he made a steal at the end of those games. Then, of course, there was Kobe Bryant. He had a handful of unforgettable moments. In the first round, the Jazz forced him to one of the worst shooting nights of his playoff career in Game 3. What preceded was Kobe hitting one tough contested shot after another. He finished with 38 points on 67% shooting in Game 4. Against the Houston Rockets, he was out for blood after the media went crazy for the way Shane Battier defended him in Game 1. He took that challenge personally and proceeded to knock down shots all night with Shane Battier's hand 1 millimeter away from Bryant's face. He had one of his most dominant performances thanks to his impeccable offensive skills. He finished the game with 40 points on 59% shooting. He let the whole world know that there was no one that could guard him. In the conference finals, he had one of his most clutch playoff series. In Game 1, he scored 18 of his 40 points in the fourth quarter. 15 of those points came in the final 6 minutes. But Game 3 was his most memorable performance. With the Nuggets trying everything to get into his head, he stayed calm and collected. In the fourth quarter, he scored 13 huge points. That includes this dagger 3-pointer over J.R. Smith that helped the Lakers take the lead and ultimately the game. Then in the finals, he did a little bit of everything. In Game 1, he had his only 40-point game for his career in the finals. He finished with 40 points on 47% shooting, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. In Game 2, the Magic pushed the game to overtime. That is when we saw some more Kobe and Gasol magic that allowed them to pull away with the victory. But he did just impact his team on the court. In the most Kobe way possible, he said these famous words after going up 2-0.
Still waiting for a big smile out of you. You're up 2-0. What's the story? Are you not happy, or you're only half happy, or?
Still to be happy about.
You're up 2-0.
Job's not finished. Job finished? I don't think so.
The lesson? Don't ever get too high. Not when there's still work to do. This is the ultimate example of how he morphed into a better teammate and a better leader. He helped each one of his teammates to adopt his killer mentality. The Lakers took on his personality. In the end, he and Jerry West became the only players to average at least 32 points and 7 assists for the finals. This proved once and for all that he could win a title while being the best player on a team, and he broke the stigma that he could win without Shaq. His career was validated as an all-time great. But the biggest hero was Derek Fisher. He had one of the most clutch moments in NBA Finals history. Late in Game 4, the Lakers were down by 3 points. The Magic trapped Kobe and were daring any other player to take the shot. Fisher didn't hesitate at all, and he made a tough 3-pointer over Jameer Nelson. Then in overtime, they thought it was a wise idea to leave him open. and he made another three-pointer to give his team the lead and the victory. He is one of the few players that hit 2 clutch shots in the same game in the finals. He made so many clutch shots for the Lakers throughout his career, but nothing was bigger than this moment. When it was all said and done, the Lakers became only one of 15 teams to have won the title while winning over 65 games. They had one of the most dominant seasons ever. It took a total team effort to make history. But what about you all? What was your favorite moment from this season? Where do you think this team ranks among the greatest teams of all time? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.